apologize for being the way that I was. Okay.
Okay, I appreciate it.
I do apologize.
I just love talk. I want to talk to
Like,
people.
we're not out here to be.
I literally want to have a dialogue.
I can
and a
truly,
discussion.
genuinely say I apologize.
Well, I appreciate that.
I think that.
We're just out here having conversations.
I just want to learn.
I remember you from high school.
Yeah.
I remember you.
You guys went to high school together?
Yeah, I remember you from high school.
Yeah, this is my husband.
This is your husband. Hold on. Chris?
Yep.
Hold on. Last name. Swaney?
Yeah,
Swaney.
there you go.
Swaney.
Yep.
I don't remember. I'm sorry. I was rage baited myself. Yeah. I rage baited myself, and I'm sorry.
We've been coming in contact with that all day, but it's.
I just want to know.
It is what it is. It happens.
Okay, let's us just have a genuine conversation, I guess. And I'm open to having that. And I mean, maybe my tensions are heated. So, what is your genuine, feeling about, the temperature of America right now? Do you think that genuinely things are going in a positive direction?
There's a lot. I mean, there's definitely a lot we could talk about. In a whole, if you're just asking for a whole general
just
opinion.
A baseline temperature.
Okay.
What do you think about the direction of America right
honestly, now? I think everything that Trump is doing is kind of going back to our original founding, within our founding documents.
Making sure you're still back there.
I think it's.
Can you just not point it right at me? I just.
Yeah. I think going.
No, I can respect that.
I think going back to our original founding, when it's going back to small government, cutting out the regulatory agencies. We have close to an estimate of 25 million illegal immigrants in this country, and I think that is disingenuous to the people that have came here legally. So, and the way that Trump is doing things, I believe is constitutional. I wouldn't be supportive of things that he does if it is not constitutional. I am 100% for a constitutional republic. And just kind of what I'm seeing is with everything, and of course you have your First Amendment rights, you have everything going on here, but what I'm seeing is people, the founding fathers, you go back to when they were originally writing the documents, even Benjamin Franklin said having a constitutional republic government is going to be the best if we can keep it. And because a democratic government would mean mob mentality. And so when I hear, things on the media and everyone spewing we're in this constitutional crisis, but then they're also screaming threat to our democracy, I find that interesting because we are a constitutional republic, and being in a constitutional republic means that we're ruled by our constitution. If we want full democracy, we wouldn't be ruled by our constitution. We do have a democratic process, don't get me wrong. When we do vote people in, that is a small portion, little democratic process that we have. Our elected officials are done by we the people, which is great, and it's super important. But I think it's kind of gone towards what Benjamin Franklin was always warning about when he says, oh, we're going to lead into this, this form of government where the mob mentality happens. And the reason why they were so against the mob mentality is because it actually does take out the minority voice. And you just hear, and the media is really projectile that mob mentality. And they're projecting things that aren't necessarily in our founding.
So I think, and I will say, I think that right now we're in a very unique position to where it's not really Democrat versus Republican, it's the far right versus the far left. The United States right now is not what it was even 20 years ago. I think that there is such a crazy division. I wouldn't even say that I am a far left liberal by any means. I am a pretty center person. I do think that letting millions of immigrants in under the Biden administration was not great. And I think that they are here now. And unfortunately, the way that specifically ICE has been going, and even Trump has admitted just the way that they've been rounding up the farm workers is going to take really large economic tolls on our industry, especially in California and things like that. They're here now, and we do have to due process. There is a way to do that. And I think that the media, I definitely think that mainstream media, there is a problem with that, and how even Killmonger, there was a huge thing of he was wrongly deported, and he's this cool, great guy, and there's nothing wrong with him. He was unjustly deported. He does have a record. he should have been technically given due process, whatever that
He
due
did
process.
have a record before he was.
And that's what I'm saying, though.
Right.
But the problem is the media is giving this narrative and trying to victimize these people and make them look like they are these like victims and these, I can't think of the word.
It's like a smoke screen.
Exactly. I am not blind enough and stupid enough to see that the media is, they're tricking us and they're making us think that these immigrants are all these innocent people.
Yeah.
There are people that need to be gone. They need
Yeah.
to be taken and they need to be deported. It needs to be a quick due process, get them out of here and leave.
So do you think that Trump is going against our Constitution on the deportation?
I think that there needs to be due process.
Are you familiar, I'm just curious, are you familiar with how it works, like the whole process?
I mean, I can admittedly say I probably am not like well versed in it, but I'm like
can I tell you a little
understandably.
bit about it?
I mean, enlighten me for sure.
Okay, so immigration court. It was founded back in 1889, and a lot of it, and throughout history, there is different court cases, not just the 1889 case, but throughout history, there's a lot of court cases that do talk about immigration. But originally, it was the original founding of it was because of a lot of these Chinese nationalists were coming over into the country, and it was a national security threat. So that's kind of just a little bit about the history and how it got here. But originally, how they structured it, so they actually have immigration court, and it's not under the judicial branch, it's under the executive branch, and it's head by the attorney general. And so, but there's also, which immigration court, they deal with the people that have overstayed their visas, people that, have been here for more than 2 years illegally, are not criminals. They're just people that have established here, that they just caught over 2 years. They go through children. Children are another example of people that go through the immigration court. It's a little bit different than our judicial, but actually a lot different. So when you talk about due process, which is under our Fifth Amendment, it's not actually fully the type of due process that you would think. Immigration court's completely different. Now, there's this thing called expedited removal, and that's kind of what Trump's really been focusing on. And of course, he's catching people within doing this expedited removal. They're not just going to ignore it because they have to follow the law. They are catching other people when they look for these certain people. They're looking for, that's why he always says we're looking for the criminals. We're looking for the people so they can do expedited removal, meaning that you actually don't go through immigration court. What ends up happening is if you're a criminal, automatic deportation, which is not actually, it's a civil case, so it's not a criminal case, so they don't consider deportation as an actual crime. And then if you came over the border once and then been deported and then come back again, that qualifies for expedited removal. Cases like that are pretty much and that's actually what Trump's been focusing on, because we don't have the power to deport 25 million illegal immigrants, so we're focusing on obviously the highest priority, but then you can also see, people get mixed in that when they're looking for someone, and then they go through the immigration court. But it's interesting to know that true immigration court is very different, so they don't automatically get an attorney assigned to them. They have to pay for their own attorney. And then you actually don't if they do rule on something in immigration court, the attorney general actually has the authority to decide what they can and can't do. They can actually overturn those decisions because it's all under the executive branch. But that is going off of Congress's legislative authority that was granted under these immigration processes that were established by court cases, by legislation, by everything over the years. So when people say, they're not having due process, I mean, everything they're doing is 100% constitutional. And so that's, they're doing it correctly. And there's nothing illegal about what they're doing. I mean,
I think it's definitely, I think especially in California, people are protective of their immigrant community.
Yeah.
And I think, places like LA, I think that especially the reaction to the ICE raids and things like that, and sending in the National Guard and things like that. I think that was more of a message from Trump specifically in his relationship with Gavin Newsom. Like they have their own little petty feud. I think that was a lot of, like tension between them. I have like kind of an understanding of how like the LAPD and the sheriff's office and all of them work together, and they didn't really give them a chance to even get to the point where they were calling in the sheriffs for backup to help, with these protests. They just immediately sent in the National Guard, and I think that was a really violent message from the Trump administration. I don't think that was necessarily the right call, and now that the Marines are there too. So, immigration is a complex thing, and Biden truly fucked that up. I can agree with that. I think we are in a really complex situation with immigration, and I personally can't say that I can say I understand how that's going to the correct way of how that can really be resolved. The violent criminals need to go.
That's what those ICE raids were in LA. Is they had signed warrants and they were going.
But they were going to Home Depots. They were going to schools and graduations.
With the Home Depot thing was actually something to do with, it was the media twisting it. Actually across the street is the federal building, and they were getting ready to do the raids. So they were mobilizing across the street and doing their plans. They weren't actually detaining anybody at that Home Depot. They were just parking in the parking lot, mobilizing, getting ready to go and execute their warrants.
So,
and what had happened is people that drove by, saw ICE out there, automatically thought that they were doing.
So this is where I can say, this is where the media is poisoning America in general.
That's what.
And but this is the thing is this is where I think that on both sides, it's getting really fucked up, because you're sitting here and you're saying Trump is looking at places like PBS News, Associated Press, who are supposed to be these like very unbiased, like just kind of give you the facts.
They haven't been.
But I mean, like any news besides Fox.
I'm not a fan of Fox.
But
hates Fox too.
But like that's the thing is like you can't look at any news source, and the moment he says that's fake news, like
he also says Fox is fake news.
But like what is real? That's the problem that I'm having is where do we
have
go?
Real journalism.
That's the problem.
Not the same as it
there's
used to
no
be back
real
in, like,
journalism.
Exactly.
So we're getting all this bullshit. We're getting all this shit from Facebook, from TikTok, from all of these unreliable news sources, and nobody knows what is what. Like what pisses me off today is I'm here with all of these people. I didn't see a single person under the age of 30 here today. No.
It's usually like that.
It's usually like that.
But except for, there is no youth here. They're posted all over TikTok. Why should I make my Taylor Swift sign to bring the protest? They don't even fucking show up. That's what pisses me off. And they sit here and they share their TikToks about like, oh, bring your fucking goggles to the protest. It's like, we just want to be here peacefully. But the problem is these kids didn't grow up during any times of any kind of like actual United States crisis. We when we were in high school, freshmen in high school, 9/11 happened. We grew up when there was Desert Storm.
We had all of that stuff.
We grew up when there was actual national crises where it didn't matter if you were a Democrat or a Republican. We were holding doors for each other.
We were a different time.
That was 9/11 was the last time that America was actually united.
We didn't give a shit about anything. We didn't we were actually concerned. If there was a kid at your school that was wearing a trench coat, you were like, what's wrong with this kid? Maybe we should be concerned about this kid. Not like, well, maybe he's a transgender bi kid. Maybe we should fucking.
I mean, that stuff didn't really even exist back then.
No, it didn't fucking matter. But that's the thing is things have changed so much, and kids have not gone through anything. They are not in any way united on anything. You're either on one side or the other, and they refuse to even see that they are constantly being lied to.
I mean, it's just like the Bloods and the Crips. It's
except
for his party lines.
But then back to what you're saying about the media. I'm 100% agree. I hate Fox News. I hate all media channels because they do spew lies and it's not correct. And that's why I'm always a proponent of people looking at our founding documents, looking at our history, looking at legislative text, I actually do legislative and government relations. So I work with directly in there. I was, a little background on why, I even support Doge is because I was the unelected bureaucrat they're talking about. I was in these backdoor meetings. I worked with Democrats for about 10 years in the Bay Area. I saw the corruption. I saw the power of being able to write regulations without being elected. Because now Congress isn't writing our laws, they delegate it to regulatory agencies. Regulatory agencies encompass all three branches of government. They're the executor of their laws, the writer of their laws, and if you go through court through them, they're the judges of their own laws. And so coming into that and seeing that I can go sit in a room with, all these different people and influence regulation, actually write regulation. And then you see Doge come up and say, we're getting rid of regulatory agencies. That's great for me because I've sat there and watched so much corruption. I want our Congress, our elected Congress, to write laws. And that's why I supported Doge. I always tell people, do not believe everything you see on social media. It's very important. I think it's important that we, we look at the actual documents. And people don't do that because, a lot of people honestly lazy, and they don't actually look into things. But if they did, you'd look at these news, you'd watch the news and think of it a completely different way. You'd have this mind-opening thing like, oh my gosh, like what they're saying is crazy. What?
What's the minute?
There's so many other people because it is the media that they're watching.
CNN, Fox, whatever.
The stuff that they do, it's not.
Since the 90s.
Seeing what the truth is.
I definitely and that's the thing is I have a hard time so I try to watch independent news sources.
And those are the best to watch if you're gonna watch it.
I will dabble in I watch the what's his name, the Aaron Parnas things and the Midas Touch, but I'll also watch things like Steven Crowder because I want to see both sides. I want to see what both sides are saying. Because I don't think that it's fair to myself to really, to just be blind to that. But I also, identify with a more leftist. I definitely consider myself more centered.
What is the main policies you would say that you're for that make you,
I believe in a strong social safety net for people. I believe in, Medicare. I believe in, social services. I believe in taking care of our aging and elderly community and children. Those are the things that I care for and I'm passionate about. I grew up with a single mom on welfare, but that's not something that, we lived off of because it was a great thing. We used it as a step up to, I grew up in Carmichael with, my single mom, like I said, living on free lunch and social services so that my mom could, make those steps to becoming something. She's a successful woman today and I'm a successful person today because of those things. And I had to take advantage of those systems at one point too when I lost my job, with, when I had my baby.
in California.
Exactly. So it's I do believe in those things and I think that they're important, but
wouldn't you say the media's but it's the media spewing this they're cutting, but when you look at it, where is that coming from? What are they cutting other than the regulatory agencies, right? But what's interesting is we've only had those for 100 years before that, and they emerged. It's actually kind of an interesting story. I'll go through it really fast. But back in, between the 1930s and 1960s, when the progressives were kind of shifting into a liberal party, they're progressives though. They agreed with, they did not agree with the Constitution. They were against it. They said it's an outdated document. We need to get rid of it. What we want is we want a strong executive branch. We don't like checks and balances. That's pretty much what they were saying. And so they created these regulatory agencies because they knew they could put someone in power that went against our checks and balances, that could write laws that aren't Congress. And so when Congress writes a law, they kind of delegate it to these regulatory agencies and say, okay, well, we're establishing this agency to do this. And then they write all the regulations. They can do whatever they want, essentially. And so when that happened, it kind of, the rise of, they call it the administrative state. And so it was the rise of the administrative state, FDR, Woodrow Wilson, they were all a part of it. And that's before we only had about, our original founding was 4 different departments. And so everything on funding side would go under the Department of Treasury, just like we didn't have the Department of Education until 1977, because the money came from there. So now we're not only spending billions of dollars funneling into these like regulatory agencies and stuff, but they're also writing laws, but people like me go in and I can just change it, you know. And it's like, I didn't even have money. That's the crazy part. I just did it because I had powers, I had positions of power within these different secret meetings, and that's what's scary. And so they're getting this idea that things are getting cut because we are taking down the regulatory agencies. But our generation, and no generation alive today has ever seen a generation without regulatory agencies. So it's scary to think about, you know. And you think about it and you say, wow, this is crazy. Like, how will we do things? It's possible. We have a smaller government. The money will go through the Department of Treasury, and that will still go to programs.
I honestly,
through the states.
I can say it like, and again, I apologize for the way that I reacted initially, and I can truly appreciate, like, you are obviously a very intelligent person, and like your perspective is, it's nice to have these conversations face to face.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times.
Yeah, we're not out here to
I
cause
just
trouble.
want to I just want to talk. I want to debate. I want to figure out like your side. I want to have conversation.
Yeah, no, and I
'Cause
genuinely.
you can't really have that on the internet because
No.
it turns into a name calling.
No, I'm sorry. What is your name?
Michaela.
Michaela, I'm
Nice
Heather.
to meet
It
you.
was really nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Because I struggle to have these conversations with people, and like I think that people generally do get in these echo chambers, and like I rage baited myself. I think that just especially tensions have been high with everything, and
I try to stay away from that even online. I never name call. I never do that. People call me names, but I don't.
No, you're
it
very,
doesn't get
like,
anywhere.
obviously a very smart woman, and I appreciate
Thank
that
you. I
conversation.
appreciate it.
But it's like just genuinely curious, like where is it that you're getting your information from? Like, what are your sources that you, because you say you like to go for like actual documents, but like, are there any actual genuine like people that you like watch on like YouTube or independent news sources that you enjoy watching?
I mean, I enjoy hearing their opinion, but honestly, I hate the news. I need to hear it to see where it's coming from. Honestly, it's funny. I watch CNN more than I watch anything because I want to see what they're saying, but to see what's going on because I'm in government. But I only get my opinions and sources from founding documents, but like the actual founding documents. So like our, Declaration, Constitution, the Federalist Papers are great because they explain, what is in our Constitution. I get my information from legislative documents. So when somebody is on the news saying like, oh, blah, 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 Trump did this, blah, 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 I go and read the text. I read the 300 pages. I'm one of those people that sit there and I enjoy it and I understand it.
Yeah, my reading comprehension sucks, so I have to actually like listen to people talk.
I honestly probably read more legislation than our Congress, honestly, because they get so much, especially California, when they get like 700 bills, no one reads it.
How they gonna read through a 5,000-page bill in 2 days?
They don't, and so that's a problem. And I think there needs to be. We need to go back to our founding. So I get our information from there, from actual true sources, or where it's like a credible source, directly from seeing it myself. I have a lot of experience in the city of Oakland, and I worked with them, so I saw what it looks like to defund the police. Saw that very clear. You call 911. I did this for 8 years. You call 911 when we got armed people, we got murders, we got dead bodies outside our door. It's a busy signal, and that's scary.
Or it takes them 3 days to even show up.
Yeah,
after
they'll
you
show
make
up
a
3
report.
days. It's crazy. So I am, personal experience, real legislation, real founding documents. That's kind of where I've come from. I mean, it's nice to listen to commentators sometimes. They have some good points, but I never believe what somebody says. I've never done that. I always deeply research it, really research it.
And that's where I have a problem, because it's like a lot of times like there'll be like these commentators that show up and they were like, I have this unbiased view, and then like something like this will start happening, and then you can see their true colors start to come out and how like far left leaning they really are. When I really do try to stay like pretty middle of the road on a lot of things. And like I will say, like, especially like being recorded, I don't feel comfortable saying a lot of the things that I would probably say, being that I am so middle of the road. But like I have a lot of my ideas aren't very liberal. You know what I mean?
You're more in the center. Yeah.
Very, very centered.
Like that for a while too.
You
Yeah.
know,
And then we had trouble like with like 16 and I was like, okay, and I started moving.
Honestly, Oakland is what made me as conservative as I am today, because I worked with
Oakland was a big
Democrats
part of it.
for 10 years and I saw their policies in action.
Yeah.
And I worked with the DA there. I worked with the police department, and it was crazy. It
Yeah.
was a crazy experience.
Seeing the
And
corruption firsthand and
yeah,
everything.
I went down there not political. I came back very, very conservative.
Yeah.
And then also, of course, I'm supportive of this, small government thing. It's great. I really support. I think it's scary when you have big government, and I think it's being skewed in the media as to say that it's this bad thing, because the reason why is because these people won't have control anymore.
right.
Like, I was directly in the middle of it. I saw this, and
Yeah.
it's scary. It's scary that people would have that kind of authority,
Right.
and I don't think it's something we need. Congress needs to write our laws.
Yeah, no, I agree. And
And then certain things that Trump's doing with executive orders, he's doing it because action is not happening within Congress, corruption is happening. But if you look at the things that he's doing, it is 100% constitutional, and that is what we should be doing, because we are a constitutional republic. So every branch of government needs to be looking at, it's not the branches of government that rule, it's our constitution.
I will say that as far as like, one of the things that's really upsetting about, that upsets me about the whole like putting people like Linda McMahon in head of like the education and stuff like that, like not really appointing people who have like actual experience and putting her in charge of the Department of Education, like that's kind of worrisome to me. And
But the whole thing was to abolish it.
the Department of Education.
Yeah.
Why would we want to
Because-
abolish the Department of
Because
Education?
the Department of Education came around in 1977, and it is a regulatory agency. So we spend billions of dollars on the regulation of it. When before then, what happened is we actually got our funding through the Department of Treasury, and that would go down directly to the states, directly to the schools, directly to the purpose of it. And actually, the Department of Education actually made things worse with education. I think people were far more educated before the establishment of it. And we wasted millions of dollars on this administration writing these regulations. So now what they want to do is they want to abolish it, just like, getting rid of the three-letter agencies that I am so against. And they want to take that money still. The money's not going to be cut. It's going to be dispersed directly to the schools. And then it's going to be up to the states to do their schooling. So now, and the biggest arguments, a lot of people say, oh, what about those states that aren't well off? Well, no, they're actually going to be more well off now, because instead of all this money going to this federal agency that isn't doing anything, that's just writing these regulations and isn't helping the cause, now it's going to go to the schools. Now it's going to go to the states.
We're handing out to everybody.
I appreciate it. No, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
So,
Thank you for the offer.
yeah.
But then that also kind of worries me. I mean, I think that there should be more control in the hands of the state when it comes to things like that. But
It worries me because I California's policies are scary.
But like also it does like I think, I don't know about California. They probably, I can't really say one thing or another whether or not they would invest a lot in education and things like
Well, they're
that.
supposed to use the money they get from the federal government if they follow the educational to you get.
Pizza, pepperoni, and cheese. Pick up. I have 2 pizzas and 2 Pepsi for latte.
It's okay. Thank you. I'm not super hungry right now. I appreciate it though. Yeah,
No,
thank you for the offer.
Thank you though.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's there's just a lot of misinformation. I am 100% for people finding the true information.
Yeah.
And that's what I want people to do. I want people to open their minds and look at the real stuff. Like,
Yeah.
that's why I'm out here.
And I honestly, I can't say that I don't think that TikTok can go away fast enough. I think that is a big.
I'm not even on TikTok.
But,
I
like,
don't use it.
But
My siblings get their information from
Oh,
TikTok, and it's
gosh.
absolutely ridiculous. Yes.
But I think that is a big part of the brain rot.
all social media. I
and
think.
like part of the reason why the youth are so
attention
stupid.
span is like so slow, and if you don't hear something within 5 seconds, it's like
Yeah, but they just
attention span of a goldfish.
exactly.
I mean, we didn't even have Facebook until what,
2008. It was
Yeah.
2008.
Yeah.
Well, no, like we
had MySpace in high school.
Yeah,
But that was like just totally like not.
I mean,
That was
Facebook
just for
started
fun.
when I was a junior,
Yeah.
but there was only like 2,000 people on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2008 is
It
when
didn't
it
take
took,
off, yeah.
it took off.
But it's
It's a scary thing. That we
social
live in.
media is brain rot, but it's not just the children. It is the older people that
It's
believe in
everything,
all
yeah.
of this AI.
Yeah,
It
it's
is
scary.
like
I'm not for AI.
like all of it is so scary, and I think that like people just need to be encouraged to find a lot more information. Like, me myself, like I work for the state of California. State of California, we all kind of liberal. I saw the executive
Kind of
of my
liberal.
agency.
kind of
I saw the
liberal.
executive of my agency here,
Yeah.
like, it is what it is, and things like like I said, I kind of have a unique, like, understanding of, the police officers and things like that.
Yeah.
So, that's part of the bigger reason I'm here.
Yeah.
Is because of the reaction to what's going on in Southern California.
Mhm.
I don't believe in, that is the biggest reason.
But I mean, you can't say that it's being done illegally though.
But regardless, I don't agree with the reaction because I don't believe that regardless of the reason, I think that the reaction was more of
With the military?
egos between two men.
Yeah, I think the media fueled that though.
Yes.
Because I think what Trump was trying to do, because he knows how LA is with their police force, just like Oakland, and they came down there, they can't interfere with the citizens, but they're actually just protecting the federal buildings and stuff. The media makes it sound like we have this military down
marching
there,
through the streets.
but it's
and
actually
stuff.
they're just protecting the federal buildings and the federal.
But they
things.
also didn't give the LAPD a chance to like mobilize, even like to do so
But-
like the within, because the LAPD responds, and then the LAPD calls upon the CHP, and then
And the CHP was
sheriffs.
against enforcing things. So
But
that's
there's
the problem.
also the sheriffs that they have, and the LAPD. It's tens of thousands of officers they have.
But they are
down there.
very defunded. So, like example in Oakland,
They have tens of thousands of officers down there. Though. They definitely could have responded.
but they have lost a lot of their funding. And so, like my experience with
It's
Oakland.
also up to their mayor what she's going to allow them to do.
So in Oakland specifically, when I had meetings directly with the DA or the former DA, she actually got kicked out. The DA and the Oakland Police Department down there, I had Zoom meetings with them, and I was really frustrated about their no chase policy, and that's something they have in Oakland and San Francisco, because I had armed people with stolen cars breaking into my buildings multiple times, and the cops would sit there and watch it.
watch them
Because of
carry
policy.
our products out
Oh,
of the
Because
building.
of policy,
Exactly.
and it's like, and then when I sit there on the Zoom with them and I try to,
And the criminals know exactly where
Yeah.
the line is,
yeah,
and they
That's
But-
they'll
then
come out
they-
there waving
they
their
said
guns,
they
but as
were-
long as they don't shoot at the cops can't
the
chase them.
cops were totally against getting rid of a no chase policy, and I'm just like, that is crazy. So Oakland, LA, San Francisco, they all have very similar police forces, and they're the kind of police. I mean, they're not like these big police that
They're more
supported
worried
a
about
lot of them.
lawsuits than
Yeah, a lot of them
protecting
don't.
anyone.
Yeah, and a lot of them do have, this Democrat mindset too. That's another thing. Even though they're police, they do have that. So we have major crime, and I think that's kind of what Trump knew. And if anything, just the fact of the media blaring that, these people are coming out and that we have 2,000 armed forces, I think the point was to scare people off, even though they weren't actually in the streets. They were just defending. And it worked, because, I mean, we didn't
I
see
think he
it
was trying
crazy.
to prevent
we didn't see, like,
another George Floyd type
yeah,
of
because
still
we were in
riot
Oakland
and
directly
stuff.
when that was happening. It sounded like a war zone. I was on top of the
It
building
was
with an
insane.
AR. That's what I was doing.
like
That was crazy.
like things, like definitely California policy, and that is just another thing. That is just people in California and not.
And Newsom
That's
doesn't.
voting against ourselves with like these crime policies.
But we voted for Prop 36, which was something that was supposed to put people, away for crimes.
yes.
And now Newsom wants to defund it. He's not funding it.
This whole like
Like,
people
why?
going and like blatantly stealing from places and walking out, like that
Yeah.
is just
And now Newsom won't fund Proposition 36.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
and the crime in California, it's
So that, I mean,
it has recently changed though, right? Like that one has changed. They have been actually like.
I mean, they passed Prop 36,
There's certain
but they
counties
won't fund
that
it. They won't fund
that
it.
are taking advantage of it, and then there's other counties that are
Well,
still like
mainly
no.
they won't fund it. So that's the
Yeah.
biggest problem right now. And so it's like it didn't even pass. That's kind of what it is, and that's the biggest fight that we're having right now. Is we pass, you know, the voters, we the people passed this initiative, and now nobody's funding it.
That's okay with you. How does that play out in your moral
How does
fiber?
he rape
You
people?
ass.
How does he rape people?
He was convicted
Grow
of rape.
up. Read the news. Are you in La La Land? Read the news. La La Land. Hold the land.
No, she looks like the kind of person that doesn't live in reality.
I don't watch the news. You're right. I hate the news.
These these are
But we had people in like Trump.
You walk away. Why did you talk to me?
I'm just curious about what makes you know this, Matthew.
Yeah? You haven't even talked to me. Don't talk to me then. Well, like I said, I do appreciate having an
Yeah, I have to get back to my daughter.
Yeah,
No, it was
But
really
like,
nice
I
talking
really
to you.
appreciate,
Yeah.
like,
No, thank you
seriously,
for the
like
time.
this. I wanted this
Yeah.
dialogue. It's
Yeah.
good because I get more insight. You know, we go back and forth.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. It was really.
No, and like I said, I do apologize. I'm always willing to admit when I'm wrong, and I was.
I really
definitely wrong.
appreciate that. It was really nice meeting you.
You too.
You have a good day.
Stay safe.
Thank you. It's crazy.